Welcome to Armstrongism Investigated, where we uncover the errors and cult-like devotion found within the world of Armstrongism. Today we ask a critical question. Why do Armstrongist groups preach more about Herbert W. Armstrong than Jesus Christ? From Bob Thiele to David Pack, from John Brisby to Gerald Flurry, these groups elevate Armstrong's teachings while the true gospel fades into the background. But here's the bigger question. Is it time to leave Armstrongism behind? Let's take a deeper look.
All right, folks, you ready to dive deep?
Always, Ray.
Because today we're gonna tackle a topic.
Oh boy.
It's a bit of a doozy. We're talking about Armstrongism.
All right.
And specifically, we're looking at this article from
Okay.
Armstrongism Investigated. And get this. It's titled, the title is a question.
Ooh, intriguing.
The Gospel of Herbert W. Armstrong? Question mark.
With the question mark like that, you just know there's going to be some fireworks.
Oh, yeah. I mean, a question mark like that is practically begging for a deep dive.
Exactly.
So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to unpack this whole thing. And the article, it comes out swinging.
Oh.
It basically argues that, groups like, you've got the Continuing Church of God, Philadelphia Church of God.
Right.
Church of God, the Eternal Restored Church of God.
Mm.
They might actually be more focused on, get this, Herbert W. Armstrong himself.
More than on Jesus.
Than on Jesus Christ, yeah.
Wow.
I know, right? Just pretty bold claim.
I mean, to even understand that claim, we need to kind of back up a little bit.
Sure.
And talk about, like, who even was this guy?
Yeah, good point.
Herbert W. Armstrong? I mean, so he was like a radio evangelist, right?
Yeah.
Kind of mid-20th century. He founded the Worldwide Church of God, and he had some, well, let's just say unique interpretations of the Bible.
Right.
He gained a following, but it seems like what they're saying is that over time, his personality and his pronouncements kind of became the main thing instead of like the gospel message.
It's almost like it's not even a subtle shift.
No.
It's like they took the stained glass windows out of the church and replaced it with just a giant neon sign that just flashes Armstrong 247.
Wow.
Seriously, you would not believe the sheer volume of sermons,
Really?
booklets, books
Oh my goodness.
dedicated to just praising this guy. I mean, you'd think he was the one.
That did the miracles.
Yeah, you would think he walked on water.
Yeah, it's like, come on.
Turned water into wine.
Right.
The whole 9 yards.
And it's even more striking when you look at how little they actually focus on Jesus, like his life, his death, and the resurrection.
Yeah.
The things that are like the core
Cornerstone.
Yeah, the cornerstone of the Christian faith. It's like what are we even doing here?
It really makes you wonder what their priorities are.
What are they really focused on?
Yeah, I know. And, the article even mentions this book, Raising the Ruins.
Okay.
And honestly, it reads like a fan fiction tribute to Armstrong.
Really? Like more than about Jesus?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They paint him as this, like, misunderstood, persecuted prophet.
Oh, come on.
Like he could do no wrong.
Even the apostles, they
No.
focused on spreading the good news, right? Not like complaining about how hard it was.
Exactly. They weren't writing books about their bad press. They were out there
Exactly. They were spreading the word.
spreading the gospel, yeah.
Yeah, and that really highlights something about the article talks about too.
Yeah, what's up?
This idea that like Armstrong is the only one who's got the truth.
Oh, wow.
And that he's, constantly under attack by Satan. So if you question his teachings, you're basically
Attacking God.
attacking God.
Wow, that's a dangerous.
That's a slippery slope.
Yeah, slippery slope.
Yeah.
So you would think that when Armstrong died, his followers would have,
Just kind of carried on.
carried on the teachings, right?
Yeah.
Peacefully.
Oh,
No,
no.
not even close. They splittered into all these competing groups,
Oh, no.
with each one claiming to be
the true heir.
the true inheritor of Armstrong's mantle.
Oh, boy.
I'm talking guys like Gerald Flurry, David Pack, Bob Thiele,
Right.
John Brisby.
Yeah.
They all think they're the rightful heir to the Armstrong throne.
It really goes to show that when the focus is on the person
Yeah.
and not the message,
Yeah.
that's a recipe for disaster.
It creates a power vacuum.
Yeah, exactly.
And everyone's scrambling to fill it.
That's right.
It's not about Christ anymore. It's about
Who gets to wear the crown?
exactly who gets to wear the Armstrong crown.
Yeah. And the article even points out it's like these guys,
Yeah.
they're condemning the behaviors that they're engaging in.
It's like they didn't even read the instruction manual.
It's like, come on, guys.
It's wild. They claim to be upholding his teachings.
But at the same time, they're like vying for power.
Vying for power, yeah.
Tweaking his doctrines.
Tweaking his doctrines, yeah, to fit their own, like, agenda.
And that right there is a classic example of what we call cultic allegiance.
Cultic allegiance.
Where basically being loyal to the leader
Right.
becomes more important than the actual principle.
The actual faith.
Yeah, of the faith.
So I guess where does that leave us? I mean, it seems like what they're saying is that Armstrongism,
Yeah.
it calls itself Christian.
Right.
But maybe it's more about,
worshiping a man.
yeah, worshiping a man than worshiping God.
You hit the nail on the head. And from an Orthodox Christian perspective, that is a big no-no.
Yeah.
That's idolatry.
Like they took a wrong turn somewhere on the road to discipleship.
And ended up in a spiritual cul-de-sac.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And it just makes you wonder, like, what happens when a personality becomes bigger than the message?
Right, and that's what we're going to keep talking about as we keep going deeper.
Oh, yeah, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more to uncover.
Oh, yeah, we're just getting started.
So much more to unpack here.
That's right.
But I think this has been a pretty good foundation for us. We've laid the groundwork.
We have.
We've talked about who Herbert W. Armstrong is, kind of the context.
The claims of this article.
Yeah, the claims of this article. So I think we're in a good place to really dive into
the nitty-gritty.
The nitty-gritty. So buckle up, folks.
Yeah, this is going to be a wild ride.
Because we're just getting started.
That's right. One of the things that really jumped out at me from the Armstrongism Investigated article is how this whole, shift from Christ to Armstrong plays out in the actual teaching.
Yeah, what do you mean?
Well, it's almost like they've taken the gospel and just replaced it with, I don't know, like the gospel of Herbert W. Armstrong.
Okay, so what does that look like?
Like they've got their own commandments, their own prophecies.
So it's not just about, the teachings of Jesus, it's about
Armstrong's interpretation.
Armstrong's version of it.
Exactly.
So what's the content? What's this Armstrong gospel all about?
Well, it's a mixed bag, really.
Okay.
There's a big emphasis on Old Testament law.
Okay, so following all the rules and regulations.
Yeah, very strict adherence.
Okay.
And then there's this really ribbed structure within the church, like a very hierarchical system.
Right.
And then just a heavy dose of apocalyptic fear-mongering.
So it's all about rules,
yeah,
obeying those in authority,
mm-hmm.
and being terrified of the end of the world.
Pretty much.
I gotta say, that doesn't sound very, very Christian to me.
Yeah, you're picking up what the article's putting down, right?
Yeah.
It's arguing that Armstrongism, even though it calls itself Christian, has really strayed from the core
teachings.
The core teachings of Christ.
It's like they took a message of hope and love and grace,
mm-hmm.
and just kind of twisted it into this.
Yeah, into this fear-based control mechanism.
Yeah, it's like follow the rules or else.
Exactly, and don't you dare question anything.
Which, I mean, that doesn't really leave a lot of room for growth or...
No, not at all.
Or exploration or anything.
It's like they've built this wall around their beliefs.
Right.
And anyone who even peeks over the edge is instantly labeled a heretic.
So it's like a spiritual echo chamber.
Yeah, pretty much.
But here's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Armstrong dies, and you'd think his followers would just,
keep the teachings going.
Yeah, keep the teachings going. But no, they
fragment, they break apart
into all these different groups, each one claiming to be
the true heir.
The true heir to his legacy.
It's like, come on, guys, you missed the whole point.
It's like they're competing in this Armstrong Idol competition.
Armstrong Idol, I love it.
But the prize is just missing the point of Christianity.
Yeah, you're right.
It's just it's so ironic.
And this goes back to that cultic allegiance thing, where it's more about loyalty to the leader than it is to the actual faith.
Right. So you end up with this distorted version.
A cheap knockoff.
Yeah, a cheap knockoff of the real thing.
Exactly.
And to make matters worse, like you said, the article points out,
mm-hmm.
these leaders are doing the exact things that Armstrong supposedly condemned.
The hypocrisy is astounding.
It's like they're looking in a mirror, but they don't even recognize themselves.
It's textbook personality cult stuff.
Yeah.
They may use Christian language, they may have the symbols.
Right.
But they've replaced worship of God with worship of Armstrong.
It's idolatry, pure and simple.
Exact.
And it's a reminder that even people who claim to be following Christ can end up going down a very, very different path.
It's a cautionary tale for all of us to really examine what we believe
And why?
and make sure we're following the right leader.
Yeah, are we following Christ, or are we following a charismatic leader?
That's the question.
That's the question. Yeah. And the article, it doesn't just leave us hanging.
No, it offers a way forward.
Yeah, it offers a way forward. So what do they say?
They basically say, look, if you're caught up in this Armstrongism thing, ditch the misplaced allegiance to this man.
Okay.
And get back to the source, get back to Jesus Christ.
So it's like a return to the basics of Christianity.
Exactly. Rediscover the heart of the faith.
Get rid of the legalism, the fear.
Embrace the love, the redemption, the forgiveness.
That actually sounds really good.
It's the good news.
Yeah.
That's what it's supposed to be.
The good news, yeah. But I can't help but wonder, like, is anyone in these Armstrongite groups actually listening?
That's a tough question.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't know for sure.
Right.
But what we can do is keep having these conversations, keep shining a light on these issues, keep pointing people toward the truth,
Yeah.
and hope that, even one person breaks free and finds their way back to a genuine relationship with Christ.
And that's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about.
As we've been talking, I keep thinking back to that question mark.
Oh, yeah, in the title.
In the title of the article, The Gospel of Herbert W. Armstrong. It's like a challenge.
It is.
It's like a challenge to all of us.
To really examine what we believe and why.
Yeah, and why, exactly. And I think the article goes even deeper than that.
Oh.
It's like they're hinting at this bigger question.
Okay, I'm listening.
If a belief system spends more time defending its founder than spreading its message
Interesting.
of salvation,
yeah.
what does that tell you about its true nature?
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's like actions speak louder than words.
Exactly.
If you're really all about Christ, then your focus should be on sharing his message.
Sharing the message, yeah.
Not building a cult of personality around some guy.
It's like their priorities are completely backwards.
Yeah, it's like they're building a monument to Herbert W. Armstrong.
Yeah.
Instead of focusing on the good news.
It's like, yeah, come and see the Herbert W. Armstrong Museum. Gift shop's right over there.
Yeah, you get a free pamphlet.
It's like, what?
That's not what it's about.
No, it's mind-boggling.
And that's why we need to be thinking critically.
Yes.
Especially when it comes to matters of faith.
Yeah, we got to be able to tell the difference between genuine faith and these personality-driven movements
that lead you astray. Away from the truth.
This deep dive has been quite a journey. We started with examining these teachings of Herbert W. Armstrong, and now we're questioning the very nature of faith
and leadership.
Yeah, this is huge.
It's all connected. And it shows that asks questions, seeking truth, challenging our assumptions. It's important.
It's so important. I think this deep dive has given us a lot to think about.
Oh, absolutely. And I hope our listeners take away this one key message. Never be afraid to question.
Yes.
Never stop seeking truth. And remember, true faith.
Yeah.
It's about love, not fear.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this part of the deep dive.
Okay.
But hey, the conversation doesn't have to end here.
No, not at all.
We encourage you to keep exploring, keep questioning.
Keep diving deep.
Keep diving deep. But I think there's one more layer we need to peel back here.
Ooh, there's more.
There's more. Don't leave us hanging. What else is there to uncover in this Armstrongian rabbit hole?
Well, the article touches on this idea of spiritual elitism.
Okay.
And how it can lead to isolation and even paranoia.
So, okay, we've talked about how Armstrongism seems to have, traded in the gospel for the gospel of Herbert W. Armstrong. We've touched on, the dangers of cultic allegiance.
Right.
But what else does this article from Armstrongism investigate? What else does it want us to think about? You mentioned something about elitism and paranoia.
Yeah, so the article suggests that this whole system that they've built around Armstrong, it kind of creates this sense of spiritual superiority among his followers. It's like they're the chosen few.
Right.
They're the only ones who really get it.
They've got the secret decoder ring.
Exactly, and everyone else is just, wandering around in darkness.
Okay, but what's so dangerous about that? I mean, isn't having faith supposed to make you feel special in a way?
Well, sure, but there's a difference between feeling grateful for your faith and believing that you're inherently better than everyone else.
Right.
And that's where this spiritual elitism can become a problem because it leads to isolation. It can even lead to paranoia.
How so?
Well, because you start to see the world outside your group as hostile.
Oh.
Even evil.
So it creates this us versus them mentality.
Exactly.
It's like they've built their own little fortress of truth, and they've pulled up the drawbridge.
That's a great way to put it. And the article actually talks about this fortress mentality quite a bit.
Yeah.
They point out how the Armstrong and his successors, they often used fear tactics
Oh, okay.
to control their followers. You know, they warn them about persecution from the outside world, government conspiracies,
Right.
the imminent apocalypse.
So they're basically keeping people in a constant state of fear.
Yeah, it's like they're always looking over their shoulder.
That sounds exhausting.
It is, and it's not exactly conducive to like a healthy spiritual life.
No, I mean, a little bit of healthy skepticism is one thing, but this sounds like full-blown paranoia.
Right, and when you're convinced that you're the only one with the truth,
Mm-hmm.
everyone else starts to look like an enemy.
And the article makes a really good point here.
What's that?
It argues that this whole fear-based isolationist mindset is the opposite of what Jesus taught.
Yeah, it's totally antithetical to the gospel.
I mean, think about it. Jesus was all about reaching out to the marginalized,
Mm-hmm.
welcoming the outcast, breaking down barriers.
He wasn't building walls.
No, he wasn't hiding in a fortress.
He was building bridges.
Right. He was all about love, forgiveness,
One-shin.
connection. Yeah, not fear and judgment.
And that's what's so tragic about this whole thing,
Yeah.
is that the people who are caught up in it, they often genuinely believe
Yeah.
that they're doing the right thing.
Right. They think they've got the truth.
Mm.
Even if it means, sacrificing relationships, abandoning critical thinking, and living in this constant state of anxiety.
It's heartbreaking.
It is. It is. But the good news is,
Yeah.
the good news is that the article doesn't just end with pointing fingers.
No, it offers hope.
It offers hope. It actually ends on a pretty hopeful note.
It does. It does. It basically calls on people to come back
To come back
to the true source of faith,
Okay.
to abandon the worship of Armstrong, and to embrace the love and grace of Jesus Christ.
So they're saying, hey, if you're tired of living in fear, if you're longing for real connection, if you want something more than just a rule book,
Yeah.
then come back to Christ.
Come back to the open arms of Christ.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And it's a reminder that true Christianity isn't about, rigid doctrines
No.
or blind obedience.
It's about a relationship.
It's about a relationship.
With God through Christ.
It's about experiencing that love and allowing it to transform you.
That's it. That's it.
It's been quite a journey, this whole Armstrongism thing.
It has.
We've explored some pretty dark corners.
We have.
But I think we've also uncovered some really valuable insights.
We have. It's a reminder that we need to be thinking critically.
Mhm.
We need to be aware of the dangers of unchecked authority.
Yeah.
And we need to remember the power of genuine faith.
And I think this conversation has implications for all of us,
It does.
no matter what our religious background is.
Absolutely.
It's a call to examine what we believe.
Why we believe it.
And who we're following.
Who we're giving our allegiance to.
Yeah, and if there's one thing I hope our listeners take away from this whole deep dive,
Mm-hmm.
it's this. Never be afraid to question. Never stop seeking truth.
And true faith is about love, not fear.
Beautifully said, beautifully said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this episode of The Deep Dive.
Okay.
But hey, the conversation doesn't end here.
No, keep diving.
We encourage you to keep exploring, keep questioning, keep diving deep into things that matter most.
The truth is out there.
The truth is out there. And until next time, folks,
Keep diving deep.
keep diving deep.
That's a wrap for today's episode of Armstrongism Investigated. If this challenged your thinking, share it with someone who needs to hear the truth. Remember, Jesus Christ, not Herbert W. Armstrong, is the way, the truth, and the life. Don't let a man-made system replace the true gospel. If you found this episode valuable, make sure to subscribe so you never miss future investigations into the world of Armstrongism. Leave a review, share your thoughts, and let's keep exposing the errors together. Thank you for listening. Stay vigilant, stay informed, and never stop investigating.